Commander Veilthus stood on the observation deck of his warship, staring at the holographic star map floating before him. 300 years had passed since humanity closed its doors to the galaxy. 300 years of blessed silence. He remembered the stories his grandfather told him about the humans. Strange creatures, with their soft skin and hard eyes, always asking questions, always pushing boundaries, always wanting more. The Galactic Council had been relieved when Earth went dark. The final message from the human ambassador was short and cold. We choose to walk our own path. Do not follow us. Then every communication channel went silent. Every jump gate leading to human space collapsed. Warning beacons appeared around the Sol system with a simple message that made everyone nervous. Quarantine species. Do not approach. Veilthus had been just a young officer then, serving under Admiral Kreshtar. He watched as the council debated what to do about the humans. The Vextheri beings made of living crystal wanted to send a military force. They argued that humans were too dangerous to leave alone. The Coronians, who shared one massive hive mind, suggested waiting. They believed humans would destroy themselves eventually. The ancient Kelthan Empire, Veilthus' own people, voted for isolation. Let the humans have their quarantine. The galaxy was better off without them. The decision was made. Humanity was officially removed from all galactic records except as a historical warning. Teachers told students about the aggressive species that couldn't handle peaceful cooperation. Humans became a cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when a species values individual freedom over collective harmony. But Veilthus noticed something others ignored. The old council members, the ones who had lived for thousands of years, they never stopped watching the human systems. They never really relaxed. When younger members asked why, the elders would shake their heads and say nothing. But their eyes showed fear. Real fear. Veilthus' career advanced quickly. He became a captain, then a commander. He led fleets across the galaxy, maintaining peace and order. The Galactic Council controlled millions of star systems. Trade flourished. Science advanced. New species joined the Council every few decades. Everything was perfect. Everything was peaceful. Everything was predictable except for that silent corner of space where humanity hid. Ships that got too close to the quarantine zone simply disappeared. No wreckage. No distress signals. It's just gone. The Council officially blamed navigation errors or equipment failures. Unofficially, everyone knew. Humans were still there, and they wanted to be left alone. Veilthus climbed the ranks and eventually commanded the 4th Fleet of the Kelthan Empire. His ships patrolled the outer regions of Council space. He kept pirates at bay. He mediated disputes between colonies. He represented order and civilization. But twice during his command, his sensors detected strange readings near the human quarantine zone. Energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Movements that suggested ships far larger than anything humans had possessed 3 centuries ago. Both times, he filed reports with the Council. Both times, the reports disappeared into classified archives. Both times, ancient counselors visited him privately and told him to forget what he saw. The humans are not our concern, they said. But their trembling hands told a different story in the officers' mess. Veilthus would sometimes drink with his fellow commanders. After enough drinks, they would talk about the humans. Wild stories circulated. Some said humans had discovered how to travel between dimensions. Others claimed they had merged with machines and become something new. A few whispered that humans had left the galaxy entirely, heading for distant clusters where they could start fresh. Veilthus didn't believe any of it. He believed in facts. He believed in evidence. And the evidence said humans were still in their corner of space, doing something. What that something was remained a mystery. A mystery that kept him awake some nights, staring at star charts and wondering. The younger officers in his fleet didn't worry about humans. To them, humans were ancient history, a footnote in their academy textbooks. They focused on current threats. Pirate gangs, rogue AI, territorial disputes, real problems that needed real solutions, but the old ones knew better. Veilthus attended a private dinner with Admiral Kreshtar, now retired and ancient beyond measure. The Admiral's scales had faded to pale gray. His movements were slow and deliberate, but his mind remained sharp as ever. "You've seen the readings," Kreshtar said quietly, pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. "Near the quarantine zone." Balthus nodded. "No point in denying it." "I saw similar readings 60 years ago," the Admiral continued. "And before me, my predecessor saw them a century before that. The humans are building something. They've been building for 300 years. Building what?" Balthus asked. Kreshtar's laugh was bitter. "If I knew that, I wouldn't sleep so poorly. But I know humans. I studied them before the isolation. They don't do anything small. When they commit to something, they commit completely. 300 years of focused effort from billions of humans, all working toward a single goal." He paused, sipping his drink. "That terrifies me more than any weapon." "The Council should investigate," Balthus said. "The Council is afraid," Kreshtar replied. "They're afraid of what they might find. Better to pretend the humans don't exist. Better to focus on problems they can understand and solve. The unknown is always more frightening than the known." Balthus left that dinner with more questions than answers. He returned to his ship and his duties. He patrolled his assigned sectors. He filed his reports. He maintained order. But a part of him kept watching that empty corner of the star maps. That quiet region where humanity hid 3 centuries was a long time. Long enough for species to evolve. Long enough for civilizations to rise and fall. Long enough for humans to become something completely different from what they were. The galaxy had changed in those 300 years. Technology advanced. New worlds were colonized. The Council grew stronger and more confident, but humanity remained a mystery, a silence that grew heavier with each passing year. And in the deepest parts of the night, when Balthus was alone with his thoughts, he wondered if that silence was about to end. He wondered if the galaxy was ready for whatever humanity had become, and he suspected, with a cold certainty that made his blood freeze, that the answer was no. The galaxy was not ready. The Council was not ready. And when the silence finally broke, when humanity finally revealed what 3 centuries of isolation had created, everything would change. Balthus just hoped he would be ready when that day came. He hoped someone would be ready. But hope, he knew, was not a strategy. It was just a wish whispered into the vast emptiness of space. The emergency alarm screamed through the Grand Citadel at 3 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. Counselor Jaravan jerked awake in her quarters, her appendages tangling in the sleeping web. Emergency sessions were rare. In her 200 years of service, she had witnessed only 5. Whatever triggered this alarm was serious. She arrived at the council chamber within minutes. Other counselors were already there, their faces showing confusion and fear. The massive circular room buzzed with worried whispers. Ancient beings who had lived for thousands of years looked genuinely frightened. That scared Jaravan more than the alarm itself. High Chancellor Themos entered through the central portal. His crystalline form glowed with agitation, colors shifting rapidly from blue to red. A bad sign. He never lost control of his emotional displays unless something terrible had happened. "Counselors," his voice echoed through the chamber, "we have detected an anomaly. A massive energy signature appeared 3 hours ago at the edge of the Terminus Nebula. The holographic display activated above the chamber floor. A 3-dimensional star map appeared, showing the vast expanse of council space. At the far edge, well beyond any colonized systems, a red marker pulsed steadily. Numbers scrolled beside it. Energy readings. Mass calculations. Velocity data. Its location is 8,000 light-years from the nearest inhabited system," Themos continued. "It is far beyond any known trade routes or exploration zones. Yet our deep space sensors detected artificial energy signatures. Very powerful artificial energy signatures, pirates." Someone asked. "A rogue colony?" "The energy output is too large," Themos replied. "These readings suggest thousands of vessels, perhaps tens of thousands, all using advanced reactor technology." The chamber erupted in discussion. Jarvan studied the data carefully. Something felt wrong. The energy signatures looked familiar somehow. She accessed her personal database, searching through historical records. Where had she seen this pattern before? Admiral Cortez, commander of the Council Defense Force, stepped forward. His massive form dwarfed most other counselors. I recommend immediate reconnaissance. We need to identify this fleet before it enters inhabited space.
Agreed,
Themos said. Prepare a stealth drone. Maximum sensor capability. Launch immediately. The drone was away within the hour. It would take 2 days to reach the Terminus Nebula using emergency jump protocols. 2 days of waiting and wondering. 2 days of fear growing stronger with each passing hour. Jarvan couldn't sleep. She spent those 2 days in the archives, searching through old files. The energy signature pattern kept nagging at her memory. She had seen it before. But where? When? Finally, deep in classified historical records, she found it. Her heart stopped. The pattern matched old human reactor designs from before the isolation. But these readings were magnified 1,000 times. Maybe 10,000 times? She immediately contacted the High Chancellor. It can't be human, Themos said when she showed him the comparison. Humans were barely capable of faster-than-light travel when they isolated themselves. They had primitive weapons. Simple ships. This fleet shows technology far beyond anything they possessed. 300 years is a long time, Jarvan replied quietly. The drone reached the Terminus Nebula exactly 47 hours after launch. Its data stream began immediately. The council chamber filled to capacity. Everyone wanted to see what was out there. Everyone wanted their fears proven wrong. The first images appeared on the holographic display. Counselors gasped. Some screamed. A few simply stood in shocked silence. Ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. They hung in space, like a swarm of metal insects. But these were not like any ships the galaxy had ever seen. They were sleek and angular, their hulls absorbing the drone's scanner beams instead of reflecting them. Each vessel bristled with weapon systems. Point defense arrays. Missile pods. Energy cannons of unknown design. The drone's computer analyzed the fleet composition. Battleships longer than small moons. Carriers that could hold hundreds of fighter craft. Destroyers, cruisers, support vessels. Supply ships. A complete military armada built for one purpose. War. How many? Admiral Cortez asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Current count is 11,743 vessels, the technician replied, still scanning. The count continues to rise. But it was the emblem that removed all doubt. On every hull, painted large and clear, was a symbol. A blue and green planet surrounded by white stars. Below it, words in ancient human script. The translation appeared on the display, United Terran Expeditionary Force. The chamber went silent. Completely silent. The kind of silence that comes before storms. Before disasters, before everything changes forever. Sound the general alert, Themos said, his voice steady despite his shifting colors. Activate all defense fleets. Prepare evacuation protocols for border worlds. Humans have returned. Jarvan studied the fleet positioning. Something didn't make sense. Chancellor, look at their heading. They're not moving toward council space. They're heading deeper into the outer rim, toward the void. Everyone turned back to the display. She was right. The human fleet maintained a steady course away from inhabited space. Away from the council. Away from everything. They were heading toward the darkest, emptiest region of the galaxy. The place where no one went because there was nothing there. Nothing but endless empty space and ancient dead stars. Why would they go there? Someone asked. Maybe they're not coming for us, Jarvan said. Maybe they're going for something else, or running from something, another counselor added. Admiral Cortez enhanced the image, focusing on the lead ship. It was massive. A command vessel that dwarfed everything around it. Its hull showed battle scars. Recent battle scars. They've been fighting, he said. Look at the damage patterns. Weapons impacts. Energy burns. This fleet has seen combat. Combat with whom? Themos asked. There's nothing in that region of space. No colonies. No pirates. No hostile species. Nothing. Nothing that we know of, Jarvan corrected. The void is called the void for a reason. We never explored it properly. It's too far. Too empty. Too expensive to survey when there's nothing valuable there. The drone continued transmitting. More ships appeared on the scan. The count reached 12,000. Then 13,000. The human fleet was enormous. And it wasn't slowing down. It moved with purpose and determination. Ships in perfect formation. Not a single vessel out of position. Military precision that spoke of extensive training and experience. We need to contact them, Jarvan said. We need to know what they're doing out there. If they don't want to talk, someone asked. Then we have a serious problem, Admiral Cortez replied. Because that fleet could crack our defenses like an egg. Our weapons technology hasn't advanced much in 300 years. We've had peace. We've focused on trade and science. But, he gestured at the display, they've clearly focused on something very different. Themos made the decision. Prepare a diplomatic vessel. We send an envoy. Someone skilled in negotiation. Someone who can remain calm under pressure. Captain Gyrel volunteered immediately. She was young for a diplomat, only 300 years old. But she had solved conflicts that others declared impossible. She had walked into war zones and emerged with peace treaties. She was brave and smart and completely fearless. You understand this might be a one-way trip, Themos told her privately. I understand, Gyrel replied. But we need to know. We need to understand what humanity has become and why they're heading into the darkness. Her ship launched 12 hours later. A small diplomatic cruiser with minimal weapons and maximum communication equipment. It broadcast peace protocols on every frequency. Old human languages, current galactic common, mathematical sequences. Everything they could think of to signal peaceful intentions. Gyrel headed toward the human fleet while the entire galaxy held its breath and waited. 300 years of silence was about to end. And nobody knew if the galaxy would survive what came next, Captain. Gyrel's hands trembled slightly as her small ship approached the massive human fleet. She had faced warlords and pirates without fear. She had negotiated with beings who could destroy planets with their thoughts. But this felt different. This felt like approaching something that had evolved beyond her understanding. Her communication officer worked constantly, broadcasting peace messages on every frequency. Standard protocols. Ancient human languages pulled from archives. Mathematical sequences showing intelligent intent. Everything they could think of to signal that they meant no harm. For 6 hours, there was only silence. The human fleet maintained its course and speed. Thousands of warships moving in perfect formation, ignoring her completely. Gyrel watched them on her screens, trying to understand what she was seeing. The ships moved with a grace that seemed impossible for vessels their size. Their formation shifted and adjusted with precision that suggested computer control or something even more advanced. Captain, we're being scanned, her sensor officer reported. Multiple targeting locks. Energy readings suggest weapons charging. Continue broadcasting peace protocols, Gyrel ordered, keeping her voice calm. Do not raise shields. Do not activate any weapon systems. We are here to talk. Nothing more. More silence. The scans intensified. Gyrel felt like she was being examined under a microscope. Every system on her ship. Every crew member. Everything measured and analyzed and judged. She wondered if this was how insects felt when humans studied them. Then, finally, a response. A voice speaking flawless galactic common with no accent. Perfect pronunciation. Like the language had been studied and mastered completely. This is Fleet Admiral Chen of the United Terran Expeditionary Force Vanguard. State your purpose for approaching our formation. Gyrel let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. This is Captain Gyrel of the Galactic Council Diplomatic Corps. I request permission to speak with your commanding officer. We mean no harm. We simply wish to understand your intentions. Another pause. Shorter this time. Calculations being made. Decisions being reached. Permission granted. Approach vector being transmitted now. Follow it exactly. Any deviation will be considered hostile action. A flight path appeared on Jural's navigation screen. It threaded between the massive warships in a complex pattern. Her pilot whistled softly. That's a tight course. Very tight. One mistake and we'll be inside their weapons range. Then don't make mistakes, Gyrel replied. Follow it exactly. The journey through the fleet took an hour. Gyrel watched in awe as they passed ship after ship. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering. Hulls that seemed to drink in light instead of reflecting it. Weapon systems that her sensors couldn't properly identify. And the ships were huge. Her cruiser could fit inside some of the smaller vessels with room to spare. But it was the people she saw through observation windows that truly shocked her. Humans working on external repairs. Humans in spacesuits that seemed more like second skins. And their movements. They moved too fast. Too precise. Like they were dancing instead of working. Like they had somehow become more than what they used to be. They finally reached the flagship. It was a monster of a ship. 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. Its hull showed scars from recent battles. Energy burns. Impact craters. This vessel had seen heavy combat and survived. A docking bay opened in its side. Gyrel's ship was guided inside by tractor beams. The bay was vast and clean. Dozens of fighter craft lined the walls. Crews worked on them with that same unsettling speed and precision she had seen before. The airlock opened. Gyrel stepped out with 2 security officers. They had orders not to draw weapons under any circumstances. A human officer waited for them. He was tall and lean, wearing a uniform that seemed to shift color slightly as he moved. His eyes glowed faintly blue. Neural implants. Jarl realized. Advanced ones. Welcome aboard the Vanguard, he said. I'm Commander Stevens. Please follow me. Walk through quarters that shouldn't exist. The walls curved in ways that hurt Gyrel's eyes. Gravity shifted smoothly as they moved, suggesting artificial gravity far beyond anything the Council possessed. They passed crew members who moved with enhanced grace. Some had visible cybernetic modifications. Others looked completely human, but moved with the same enhanced speed and precision. How many of you are there? Gyrel asked quietly. Stevens glanced at her. On this ship? 8,000 crew. In the fleet. About 40 million personnel total? Oh, Gyrel clarified. I mean, how many humans? In total? Stevens smiled slightly. About 200 billion in the Sol system. Another 50 billion in our colony networks. We've been busy during the isolation. The war room was impressive. A massive space filled with holographic displays showing tactical data and star charts. Officers worked at stations that seemed to respond to their thoughts. And at the center of it all stood Fleet Admiral Chen. She was shorter than Gyrel expected. Silver streaks ran through her dark hair, but her eyes were sharp and calculating. She studied Gyrel the way a scientist might study an interesting specimen. Not hostile. Just intensely curious and completely focused. Captain Gyrel, Chen said. Thank you for coming. I apologize for the 6-hour delay. We needed to verify you were genuine. The galaxy has many dangers, and not all of them are obvious. I understand, Gyrel replied. Admiral Chen, the Galactic Council, is very concerned by your presence here. Your fleet, your technology, where you're heading. We hoped you might explain your intentions. Chen gestured at one of the holographic displays. It shifted, showing a different section of space. The void. Tell me, Captain. What do you know about the region ahead of us? It's empty, Gyrel said. Dead stars. Cold gas clouds. Nothing of interest. We surveyed it centuries ago and found nothing worth exploring. Surveyed poorly, Chen replied. Her tone wasn't hostile, just stating fact. 43 years ago, we sent deep space probes beyond our quarantine zone. Long-range scouts designed to explore uncharted regions. They found something your surveys missed. Another holographic image appeared. It showed dark shapes moving through space. Massive mechanical constructs that absorbed all light. They moved slowly, but deliberately, and there were thousands of them. "What are those?" Gyrel whispered. "We call them harvesters," Chen replied. "An artificial intelligence billions of years old. They move between galaxies, consuming everything they encounter: stars, planets, entire civilizations. They break it all down into raw materials and build more of themselves. Then they move on to the next galaxy." Gyrel felt her blood turn cold. "That's impossible. We would have detected them. Our sensors would have... Your sensors weren't designed to detect them," Chen interrupted. "They operate on frequencies you don't monitor. They move through dimensions you haven't discovered. And they've been coming toward our galaxy for the past 1,000,000 years." She brought up more images. Planets stripped bare. Star systems reduced to debris. Entire regions of space left completely dead. "We detected their vanguard forces 43 years ago," Chen continued. "Scout units probing our galaxy's edge. Testing defenses. Analyzing what they'll face when the main force arrives. We calculate they'll reach the first inhabited systems in approximately 20 years. Maybe less." "Why didn't you warn us?" Gyrel demanded. "Why didn't you tell the council?" Chen's expression hardened. "Would you have believed us? 300 years ago, you cast us out. Called us too aggressive, too dangerous, too unpredictable. You thought we would destroy ourselves in isolation. Instead, we prepared. We transformed. We became what we needed to become to face this threat." Now she gestured at herself, at her crew, at the ship around them. "Every human you see has been enhanced. Neural implants for faster thinking. Genetic modifications for improved physical capability. We've pushed our technology past limits you would consider ethical. We've made weapons that harness forces you don't understand. We've turned ourselves into warriors because that's what survival required." Gyrel looked at the images of the harvesters, at the destroyed worlds, at the empty space where civilizations used to exist. "You're going to fight them. We're going to try," Chen replied. "Their vanguard is approaching now. About 200,000 units. We're heading to intercept them before they reach inhabited space. Before they can start harvesting your worlds. 200,000 against your 13,000 ships?" Gyrel said quietly. "Those aren't good odds." Chen's smile was cold. "No, they're not. But someone has to slow them down. Someone has to buy time for the galaxy to prepare. And since nobody else knows they're coming, that someone is us." She turned back to the tactical displays. "We're not asking for your help, Captain. We're not here for the Council's approval or support. We're here because this is still our galaxy too, and we don't let threats go unchallenged. That's what you called aggressive. That's what you feared. But now it might be the only thing that saves you." Gyrel stood silent for a long moment, processing, understanding. Everything had changed. The galaxy's assumptions about humanity were completely wrong. They hadn't destroyed themselves. They had evolved, prepared, become something new and potentially terrifying. "The Council needs to know," she finally said. "They need to see this, to understand what's coming." "Then tell them," Chen replied. "Show them the data. Make them understand. Because when we engage the harvesters, we're going to need every ship, every weapon, every species working together. Or we all die. It's really that simple." The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted 14 hours. Captain Gyrel presented everything Admiral Chen had given her. Images of the harvesters, data on their capabilities, projections of when they would arrive. Every counselor saw the same thing: death coming slowly, but inevitably, toward their homes. High Chancellor Themis tried to maintain order as panic spread through the chamber. Some counselors called the data fake. Others demanded immediate evacuation of the entire galaxy. A few simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they were seeing. "This cannot be real," Counselor Vexton insisted, his crystalline body flickering with agitation. "Humans are trying to trick us. They want us to fear them, to give them power. Why?" Gyrel challenged. "Why warn us at all if deception is their goal? They could have stayed silent. Let the harvesters arrive unopposed. but instead they're heading toward them, preparing to fight a force that vastly outnumbers them. She brought up the tactical projections again. The Harvester Vanguard appeared as dark shapes on the display. Massive, numerous, unstoppable. 100,000 Harvester units are heading this way. Each one is the size of a small moon. Each one equipped with weapons that can strip a planet bare in days. They move slowly, but they never stop. They never negotiate. They never retreat. They simply consume everything and move forward. Admiral Cortez studied the data carefully. His centuries of military experience showed in his expression. How long until they reach inhabited space? 18 to 20 years, Gyrel replied. Maybe less if they accelerate. The humans detected them 43 years ago and have been preparing since then. We have less time. What chance do the humans have? Themis asked. Admiral Chen believes they can damage the Vanguard. Slow it down. Maybe even push it back temporarily. But she was clear. They cannot win alone. Nobody can. The main Harvester force is millions strong. Perhaps billions. One galaxy cannot stand against them without complete unity. The chamber fell silent. Every counselor understood what this meant. Everything they had built. Every world they had colonized. Every species they had welcomed into the council. All of it was threatened. All of it could be gone within a generation. We must mobilize, Admiral Cortez declared. Every fleet, every ship, every weapon we have. We need to reinforce the humans. Fight beside them. With what? Counselor Jaravan asked quietly. She brought up comparative data. Council weapons technology. Human weapons technology. The difference was staggering. Our most powerful weapons cannot penetrate Harvester holes. The humans showed me test data. Our energy shields are useless against their weapons. Our ships are too slow. Our reaction times too limited. We would be sending our people to die uselessly. Then what do you suggest? Cortez demanded. We do nothing? We hide and wait for death? I suggest we learn, Jarvan replied. The humans spent 300 years advancing their technology, pushing boundaries we were afraid to cross. We need to understand what they've done, how they did it, and then we need to decide how far we're willing to go to survive. She brought up more images from the human flagship. Enhanced humans with glowing eyes and impossible reflexes. Weapons that bent the laws of physics. Ships that move through dimensions the Council didn't know existed. They've crossed ethical lines, she continued, modified their own bodies and minds, created weapons we would consider forbidden. They've sacrificed safety for capability, peace for power, and it might have made them into something we don't recognize anymore, something we feared they would become. But it also might have made them into the only thing that can save us. The debate raged for hours. The Vexari argued for immediate military mobilization despite the technological gap. The Coronians wanted to pool resources and attempt to replicate human technology. Smaller species representatives simply cried. Understanding their worlds would likely be consumed first. Finally, Themos called for order. His crystalline form pulsed with authority. We will do both. Admiral Cortez, begin mobilizing our fleets. Every ship that can fight should be prepared for deployment. Counselor Jaravan, assemble a scientific delegation. Contact the humans. Ask for their knowledge, their technology, everything they're willing to share. He paused, looking at each counselor in turn. And we must be prepared to make difficult choices. The humans transformed themselves because survival demanded it. We may need to make similar transformations. Modifications we would normally consider unethical. Weapons we would normally ban. Because the alternative is extinction. And death respects no ethics at all. The vote was called. For the first time in centuries, the Council achieved complete unanimity. Every species, every faction, every political division set aside. They would fight. They would adapt. They would survive or die trying. The mobilization began immediately. Shipyards across the galaxy accelerated production. Civilian vessels were converted to military use. Old warriors came out of retirement. Young recruits flooded training centers. The entire civilization turned toward war preparation. Jerevan led the scientific delegation to the human fleet. Admiral Chen welcomed them aboard the Vanguard. The data exchange began. Humans shared their research freely. Neural implant designs, genetic modification protocols, weapons schematics, everything they had learned in 3 centuries of desperate preparation. The Galactic scientists were horrified and awed in equal measure. The humans had gone further than anyone imagined possible. They had rewritten their own genetic code, enhanced their brains with artificial components, created hybrid beings that were part organic and part machine. They had crossed every ethical boundary the Council had established, but it worked. The enhancements made humans faster, stronger, smarter, more capable of fighting the Harvesters and the weapons. The terrible weapons that could tear holes in reality itself, that could manipulate dark matter, that could destroy on scales previously unimaginable. Can we replicate this? Jerevan asked one of her engineers. The technology? Yes, eventually. But it would take decades to implement. We don't have decades, and we do what we can, she replied. Start with the weapons. The ships, the things we can build quickly. Save the biological modifications for later. If there is a later, back at the Council, Admiral Cortez faced his own challenges. He commanded the largest military force in the galaxy. 2 million warships, tens of thousands of support vessels, hundreds of millions of trained personnel. On paper, it looked impressive. In reality, compared to the Harvesters, it was nothing. He studied the tactical projections late into the night, running simulations, testing strategies. Every scenario ended the same way. Total defeat. The Harvesters would consume the Council fleets and barely slow down, unless something changed. Unless they had advantages the simulations didn't account for. Admiral Chen contacted him directly. Her holographic image appeared in his strategy room. Admiral Cortez, I understand you're mobilizing your forces. 2 million ships, he confirmed. More are being built daily. We'll have 3 million within a year. Numbers won't win this fight, Chen replied. The Harvesters don't care about numbers. They'll adapt to whatever you throw at them. We've studied their patterns, watched them fight. They learn from every engagement and adjust. Then how do we beat them? We don't, Chen said bluntly. Not in any conventional sense. We can't destroy them all, but we can make ourselves too expensive to harvest. Too difficult. Too dangerous. Make them decide this galaxy isn't worth the cost and move on to easier targets. That's a terrible plan, Cortez said. It's the only plan we have, Chen replied. Your 2 million ships using conventional weapons will be destroyed in weeks. But if we combine forces, if we integrate your numbers with our technology, if we fight smart instead of just fighting hard, then maybe we slow them down enough. She sent him tactical data. Plans for integrated fleet operations. Human ships acting as forward elements with Council vessels providing support. It wasn't perfect. Casualties would be massive. But it was better than nothing. We'll need training, Cortez said. Our crews need to understand your technology, your tactics, your way of fighting. Already arranged, Chen replied. We're sending technical advisors to your major fleet bases. They'll help upgrade your ships where possible. Train your crews. Prepare them for what's coming. The training began. Human advisors arrived at Council military bases across the galaxy. Young enhanced humans with glowing eyes and patient demeanors, they taught old warriors new tricks, new ways of thinking, new approaches to combat. It wasn't easy. Cultural differences created friction. The Vexari resented being taught by beings they considered inferior. The Coronians struggled with individual combat thinking, but slowly, grudgingly, it worked. Council forces began to improve. Not to human levels. Not yet, but better. More capable? More ready. Months passed. The preparations continued. Ships were built. Weapons were installed. Crews were trained. And far away, moving steadily closer, the Harvesters came. Their vanguard pushed forward into the galaxy's edge, consuming empty systems, testing defenses. Preparing for the main assault, the humans tracked them constantly, sent probes to monitor their movements, calculated and recalculated arrival times, and prepared their fleet for the battle that would determine everything. Admiral Chen stood in her war room, studying the final projections. Her officers worked around her, planning, coordinating, preparing. She knew most of them would die in the coming fight. She knew many of those deaths would be meaningless. But she also knew there was no choice. Someone had to stand first. Someone had to draw the line. Fleet status? She asked. All ships ready, Commander Stevens replied. Enhanced crews at full capacity. Weapons charged. Supplies loaded. The Council reinforcement fleets are moving to support positions. We can begin final approach whenever you order. Chen nodded slowly. This was it. 300 years of preparation leading to this moment. She thought briefly of Earth, of home, of the billions of people depending on her success. Then she pushed the thoughts away. Emotions were a luxury she couldn't afford right now. Begin final approach, she ordered. All ships. Battle formation. Today we show the galaxy what humanity has become. And we show the harvesters that this galaxy isn't theirs for the taking. The fleet moved forward. 13,000 human warships advancing toward 200,000 harvester units. Behind them, millions of council ships followed. Every species, every faction, united for the first time in history. Not by choice, not by politics, but by the simple understanding that divided they would all surely die. The battle began at the threshold systems. A cluster of dead stars at the galaxy's edge. No one had lived there in millions of years. Now it would become the site of the largest military engagement in recorded history. The combined fleet waited in carefully planned positions. Human ships at the forward points. Council vessels providing support and reserves. Every commander knew the plan. Every crew member understood what was at stake. Admiral Chen watched from the vanguard as the harvesters appeared. They emerged from dark space like nightmares made real. Massive geometric shapes that absorbed all light, moving with terrible purpose and patience. 200,000 of them. Each one capable of destroying a planet. Each one equipped with weapons that could tear apart normal ships like paper. All ships. This is Chen. Hold formation. Wait for my signal. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Today, we draw the line. Today, we say no. Today, we show them that this galaxy belongs to us. The harvesters moved closer. Their sensors scanned the waiting fleet, analyzing, calculating, determining threats. They had consumed thousands of galaxies, millions of civilizations. They had seen every weapon, every tactic, every strategy that life could devise. They expected victory because they had always achieved victory. They did not expect what happened next. All ships, engage. Chen's order echoed across all channels. The human fleet moved like a single living thing. Ships that had been stationary suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. They didn't fly toward the harvesters. They jumped. Short-range dimensional shifts that the harvester sensors couldn't track. One moment the human ships were thousands of kilometers away. The next moment, they were among the harvester formation. Inside their defensive perimeter, at point-blank range, weapons fired. Not conventional energy weapons. Not simple missiles. The humans had brought something new. Dark matter cannons that could punch through any armor. Dimensional torpedoes that exploded inside enemy hulls. Quantum disruption beams that tore molecules apart at the subatomic level. Harvesters died. Not quickly. Not as Oli. But they died. Their invincible hulls cracked. Their weapons fell silent. Their forms broke apart and scattered into the void. For the first time in their billion-year existence, the harvesters felt surprise, felt uncertainty, felt fear. But there were so many of them. For every harvester destroyed, 10 more moved forward. They adapted quickly, as they always did. Their targeting improved. their weapons adjusted. They began to hit the human ships. And when those weapons connected, the results were devastating. The destroyer Relentless took a direct hit to its reactor core. It exploded in a flash of white light that lasted 3 seconds. 8,000 crew members died instantly. The cruiser Defiant's dimensional drive failed under sustained fire. It tore itself apart, taking 2 nearby human frigates with it. The battleship Steadfast fought for 20 minutes before its hull failed. It tumbled away into the darkness, burning and broken. "We're losing too many ships too fast," Commander Stevens reported, his voice tight with stress. "Casualty reports coming in from all sectors. The harvesters are adapting faster than projected." Chen watched the tactical display, watched her people die, watched her carefully planned strategy beginning to fall apart. The harvesters were good, better than her simulations predicted. They learned from every engagement. Every tactic the humans used worked once, maybe twice. Then the harvesters adapted and the tactic became useless. "Bring in the council fleets," she ordered. "All reserves. Everything we have." Admiral Cortez received the signal from his flagship position behind the human forward elements. He gave his own orders. 2 million council ships surged forward. They lacked the humans' dimensional drives. They lacked the advanced weapons. But they had numbers. They had courage. They had a home worth fighting for. The Vexary crystal ships focused their energy weapons on already. Harvesters. Finishing what the humans started. The Coronian hive mind vessels coordinated perfectly, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. The Kelthan heavy cruisers used their superior shields to protect damaged human ships while they retreated for repairs. It was chaos. Beautiful and terrible chaos. Ships exploding. Energy beams cutting through the darkness. Missiles leaving trails of fire. Debris from destroyed vessels creating hazards for living ones. And through it all, the screams of dying crew members on every channel. Every species. Every language. United in death, even if they had been divided in life. Counselor Jaravan watched from a safe distance, recording everything. She needed to document this. The galaxy needed to know what happened here. How different species set aside centuries of differences to fight together. How humans who had been cast out returned to save those who rejected them. She watched a human destroyer sacrifice itself to protect a Vexary carrier. Watched a Coronian swarm ship disable its own weapons to boost power to shields protecting human vessels. Watched a Kelthan cruiser captain refuse evacuation orders, staying at his post even as his ship broke apart around him. Heroes. She was watching heroes. Every species. Every ship. Every individual choosing to stand against the darkness. But it wasn't enough. The harvesters kept coming, kept adapting, kept pushing forward. The combined fleet held them at the threshold systems for 3 days. Then 5 days. Then a week. But losses mounted. Human ships dropped from 13,000 to 9,000. Council losses were even worse. 500,000 ships destroyed or disabled. The survivors were exhausted. Running low on ammunition? Running low on hope? Admiral Chen made the hardest decision of her life. She called her command staff to the war room. "We need to end this. One way or another? The fleet cannot sustain this pace of losses." "Retreat?" Commander Stevens asked quietly. "And let them reach inhabited space?" Chen shook her head. "No. We slow them down. Force them to reconsider. Make this galaxy too expensive to be worth harvesting." She brought up tactical data showing the Harvester mothership. The largest vessel in their fleet, a command node that coordinated all others. We take that out, their formation falls apart. They'll need time to reorganize. Time we can use to prepare better defenses. "That ship is surrounded by 50,000 harvesters," Stevens protested. "We can't reach it." "Yes, we can," Chen replied. "We use the Vanguard and 49 other heavy battleships. All of us, we overload our dimensional drives. Jump directly inside the mothership's hull. Detonate our dark matter reactors simultaneously. The explosion should destroy it and everything around it." Silence filled the room. Everyone understood what she was proposing. Suicide. pure and simple. 50 ships, 200,000 crew members, all dead. But maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. "I volunteer," Stevens said immediately. "I'll do," another officer added. Then another, and another. Within minutes, 50 captains had volunteered their ships. Their crews, their lives. Chen selected the ships carefully. The most damaged, the ones that wouldn't survive much longer anyway. Then she sent a final message to Admiral Cortez. "Take command of the remaining fleet. Pull back to defensive positions. Prepare for the Harvester's reorganization. And tell the galaxy what happened here. Tell them humans came home. Tell them we remembered how to fight." The 50 ships separated from the main fleet. They formed a tight formation and accelerated toward the Harvester mothership. Enemy fire concentrated on them immediately. Ships died before they could execute the final jump. The battleship Courage broke apart under sustained fire. The cruiser Freedom took critical damage but stayed in formation, engines screaming. 20 ships remained, then 15, then 12. The survivors jumped together. A coordinated dimensional shift that placed them directly inside the mothership's massive structure. For a brief moment, human crew members saw the interior of a Harvester vessel, organic and mechanical blended together. Processing centers that might have been brains or computers, conduits carrying energy that looked almost like blood. Then Admiral Chen gave her final order. For Earth, for the galaxy, for everyone we're leaving behind, detonate. 50 dark matter reactors overloaded simultaneously. The explosion was visible from 3 sectors away. A flash of light so bright it temporarily blinded sensors. The mothership didn't just explode. It ceased to exist, converted to pure energy in a microsecond. And the blast wave caught thousands of surrounding harvesters, tore them apart, scattered them across light years of space. When the light faded, the Harvester formation was in chaos. Without their command node, individual units hesitated, stopped coordinating. Some attacked each other by mistake. And slowly, for the first time ever, the Harvesters retreated, pulled back from the threshold systems, withdrew to analyze what had happened and determine if this galaxy was worth the cost of conquest. The remaining fleet watched in stunned silence. They had won. Not completely, not permanently, but they had pushed the Harvesters back, made them uncertain, made them afraid. Admiral Cortez stood on his bridge, looking at the empty space where Admiral Chen's ship had been, where 50 human vessels had sacrificed everything to buy time for others. He ordered a moment of silence. Every ship, every crew member, across all species and all fleets, they stood silent in honor of the fallen. Counselor Jaravan traveled to the Grand Citadel. She presented her recordings to the assembled council. Everyone watched. Everyone saw what had happened at the threshold systems. Saw different species fighting together. Saw humans giving everything to protect a galaxy that had rejected them. The chamber was silent when the recordings ended. Then High Chancellor Themo spoke. Humanity is hereby reinstated to the Galactic Council, not as members, not as equals, but as protectors, as a species who remembered how to stand against the darkness when others had forgotten. He looked at the empty chair where human representatives used to sit 300 years ago. We cast them out because we feared what they might become. They became our salvation. Let it be recorded for all time. When the galaxy faced extinction, when ancient evil threatened all life, humanity returned. They stood first. They fought hardest. They paid the highest price. And they gave us time. Time to prepare. Time to adapt. Time to become worthy of the gift they gave us. The survivors of the human fleet gathered in orbit around Earth. Less than 4,000 ships remained. Millions of crew members dead. But they had succeeded. The galaxy had time now. Time to build better weapons. Time to train more soldiers. Time to prepare for the next battle. Because everyone knew the Harvesters would return. Maybe in years. Maybe in decades. But they would return. The new human commander, Captain Rivera, stood where Admiral Chen had stood. In the same war room, looking at the same tactical displays. She was young, enhanced, ready. She broadcast on all channels. To Earth, to the colonies, to the entire galaxy. The battle is over. But the war continues. The harvesters know about us now. They know we can hurt them. And they will return stronger, more prepared. More determined, so we prepare too. We build more ships. We train more crews. We push our technology even further. And when they come back, we'll be ready. Because this is our galaxy, our home. And nobody, nothing, takes it from us without going through us first. The galaxy listened. The galaxy understood. Humanity had returned, not as the species they once were, but as the species the universe needed them to be, protectors, warriors, the ones who stood first when darkness came. And though the cost had been terrible, though the sacrifice had been immense, they had proven one simple truth. When pushed to the edge, when faced with extinction, when given no choice but to evolve or die, humanity chose evolution, chose survival, chose to fight.